Mr. Carlson TONG, Professor Benjamin Wang, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the Symposium on the review of the Research Grants Council Phase 1 and the Research Impact Fund. I'm Cici, the Master of Ceremony today. To start, may I invite the Chairman of the University Grants Committee, Mr. Carlson TONG, to say a few words. Mr. TONG, please.
Right, you can hear me? Oh, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Ben, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, I'm the least qualified person here. I shouldn't be standing here, but I'm afraid you have to put up with me to say a few words before I hand over to the people who should be here and talk about research, which is what we're all here for. The agenda for today is that we're going to cover two topics, as you see on the slide. The first part will deal with the review of the Research Grant Council, followed by a discussion on the Research Impact Fund. This symposium is going to be one of, I think, our outreach activity. In fact, this is one of the recommendations in the RGC review report you're going to hear about later, that we have spoken to a lot of stakeholders, and it is felt that we need to really reach out to our stakeholders and constituents much more. So this is the first of this effort, ongoing effort, and you should expect to see more of it. Well, first of all, the RGC, as you all know, established back in 1991, and over 20 years, I think it's done some good work and helped to promote the development of research in Hong Kong. Now, but having said that, it was established a long time ago, and time has changed, and the UGC felt 2 years ago that maybe it's time to carry out a review of the Research Grant Council, really to take it to the next stage. And it was decided there would be two phases. Phase 1, which you'll hear about today, of the Research Grant Council will cover the portfolio balance of the funding balance of the Research Grant Council. It will also look at the structure of the RGC, and last but not least, to really learn from some overseas best practices. And then there will be the phase 2. The phase 2 will look at really the more operational issues. The UGC decided to set up a task force to carry out the phase 1 review, and an external consultant, the RAND Corporation, was engaged. And the phase 1 work was conducted by sending out many questionnaires. I hope all of you have received the questionnaires. There was online consultation, and followed by focus group discussions. The study was completed, and in fact, the full report was published in September this year. I think it's fair to say the result of phase 1 reaffirmed the position of the RGC. They felt that it was delivering what it was meant to deliver, but also it made a lot of recommendations for the RGC to consider. And in fact, RGC discussed this recommendations report, accepted the recommendations, and in fact, a task force was formed to look at, as I said earlier, look at the recommendation. It was accepted. An action plan was also agreed to implement these recommendations. In fact, you will hear the purpose of today's meeting. The first part is really to go through these recommendations with you, and also to go review the action plan. One observation made by the consultant and the task force was that although RGC now distributes over $1 billion of research a year, compared to when it first started back in 1990 to about 100 million. I mean, you're talking about many times over. But really, in today's standard, is really still not enough. As you know, you have heard a lot about this. The research funding in Hong Kong represent only 0.7% of our GDP, which in fact is pretty low compared to other developed countries like China, Singapore. They're all over 2%. So really, it's an area that Hong Kong needs to catch up with. I do believe that we have a lot of talents, we have a lot of good researchers, we have a lot of good research ideas, but what we do need is probably more funding. In fact, before Mrs. Carrie Lam, after she was elected, but before she officially took over on the 1st of July, I, together with the 8 universities, presidents and vice chancellors, went to meet with Mrs. Lam, and we actually impressed upon her the fact that Hong Kong really need to increase its research funding. I'm therefore very pleased and delighted, as you know, in the CE's recent policy address. She actually has included some initiatives to support research in Hong Kong, of which there was 3 billion will be injected into Research Endowment Fund to provide studentship for the local research postgraduate students. So that's one aspect of it. And then she also said in a policy address that no less than 10 billion Hong Kong dollars will be provided for university research upon completion of a review on the research support strategy in Hong Kong, led by Professor Choi Lap-Chi. So he is controlling the purse string, and I think we are going to need to look at him and lobby him strongly, because, as I say, he's the boss here. And anyway, this task force chaired by Lap-Chi is under UGC. And in fact, they already had their first meeting, and in fact, the second meeting is coming. So a lot of work is being done already, and we look forward to his review report in due course. So this is exciting time for research arena for Hong Kong, and we look forward to a lot of more exciting developments under the new administration. Then on to Research Impact Fund. This is in the second half of the symposium. We will introduce to you what this Research Impact Fund is about. If you remember, this funding scheme was a result of Mr. C.Y. Leung, the former CE, in his policy address at the beginning of this year, where he actually requested university to conduct more impactful and translational research projects that will meet Hong Kong needs, both economic needs, societal needs, as part of the work to promote re-industrialization in Hong Kong. So UGC discussed this, and we decided to set up this Research Impact Fund. We've allocated 150 million for this triennium, so it's 2016 to 2019, 50 million a year, but we're already into 17. So in fact, we've got 150 million to spend up to the mid of 2019. Obviously, you know, it can be carried forward, but going forward, we're hoping that maybe the government will pick up this sponsorship in the future. But anyway, the purpose of this meeting is really to discuss with you this Research Impact Fund, and the key is the operational needs. What are this research that should be considered? It will be put under RGC. It would be competitive funding, but you'll hear a lot more about it in the second part of the symposium. So looking ahead, UGC is going to work hard with the universities, with all of you, with the stakeholders, with the government, really to try to take high education sector and research funding to the next stage, so which Mrs. Carrie Lam has attached a lot of importance to higher education sector for Hong Kong. So we look forward to more happening, and UGC would stand strong to promote all these activities for the benefit of the sector. So finally, I want to thank all of you for coming to attend this symposium. I hope you have a rewardful and constructive day. I also want to thank City University for offering this great venue for us, and also for all its staff for providing logistical support. We're grateful. So on that note, thank you for coming again. Let's get the show started, as they say. And it will start by Secretary General. Oh, will Ben say a few words too? You will start now for Richard Armour, the Secretary General, to go straight into the part 1 of the symposium to talk about the Research Grant Council Phase 1 review. Thank you very much.